You do not see into reality. The eyes are black holes, and they suck in the light, and then the back of the brain produces the image that you see. The ancients knew this with the cross, going back. Here's the sigil of Lucifer. Luci means light in Latin, and that's why Lucifer is called the light bearer. It just means light. If the image is produced inside of you, that means the universe is a mental projection. This is why the number one law of the Kabbalion is that all is mind, the universe is mental. You and everything in this creation has an electromagnetic toroidal field. Everything is made out of a torus field. The spectrum is an electromagnetic spectrum. This is an electromagnetic holographic projection from within your mind, and we are existing in God's mind. Human, Hu equals light, man comes with manifestation. We are light beings manifested into physical form. The 5 elements. Ment is the mind. Everything exists in the mind. Government, because the mind is the root cause of reality. Let there be light. God thought light into existence. Light is a product of the mind. Low vibrational light turns into matter. High vibrational matter turns into light. This is why the 7 metals have the same symbol for the 7 planets. Because light crystallized gives you the 7 metals. The sun gives you gold. Mars gives you iron. Jupiter tin. They are light in the firmament.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, September 1st, 2025. Out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. That's what we're going to do. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube. Thank you for being here in a live chat. Our 2 wonderful moderators, Ronnie and 2 Steps Behind, aka Raymond. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we are going to dive deep into the big question is, what is the signal for the next 5 years versus what is the noise? In other words, what should we really focus on? What do we need to get out there? Clearly, there's a lot of information about the world, about politics, about the economy, about finance, about the changes, technology, AI, and all that is incredibly important. But all of this information really points to the main signal is we must remember, internalize, embody, and then show and teach to at least 85 million people by 2030 these things that I'm going to talk about today, the true laws, which is incredibly important because it is literally everything and how everything comes to be. So it is not enough to form an organization. It is not enough to go out and beat the drum. What is most important is who we are, and even more important, the image that we hold of ourselves, which determines everything else, and that's what I want to dive into. So let's do it right here, friends. Let's look at creation and reality, okay, which is the most important thing. So we're going to start with the number 1 principle, that all is one consciousness. This has been talked about for eons by, the greatest teachers that have come about, the authors, the speakers. They've said it, but it is such an ungraspable concept that sometimes it's too hard to really comprehend what that means. Imagine this. Imagine if we would be able to see all light that is out there, everything that is out there, which we clearly can. And we know this because animals can see it. They can hear and see stuff that we can, certain animals more, others less. But if we could, then we would see invisible strings of light that connect us all, that basically show us that we're all made of the same stuff. So in all reality, at the most fundamental, basic core truth, we come from the same, we are the same. We are individual expressions of the same one huge consciousness. But in our individual expressions, we get to see life and see anything and everything through our own lens that is defined by the image that we hold of ourselves, defined by our beliefs, defined by what we think is real or true or good. So this is the number 1 principle. The number two, imagination is the creative substance. And this is where it gets into where basically the fundamental forces in this world are fighting over this. Even the religious forces don't want to go this far to say that every form, every event, every circumstance begins as an image in thought, clothed in feeling and projected into visibility. Now listen to this. It is projected into visibility. It means truly that any and everything that you could possibly imagine, it already exists as a creation. The question is, how are you calibrated? Are you syncing up with it? Are you lining up with it? Are you projecting it into your vision field? Once you understand that it begins with imagination, we go all the way back. The beginning was not the word. The word was not the beginning. Sound was not the beginning. No, it was the image that was held. It was the spark of creative image, of vision that created everything. So here we are, and it might be safe to say that there's truly nothing new under the sun. Does it mean that nothing new is ever created? I think that maybe something new that comes forth from our human imagination, if you will, from the mind that we have, maybe every generation has one or two new thoughts, truly new creations. But mostly we're just syncing up with what is already in the field, what's already there. The inner image shapes the outer world because there's nothing else. So these are, once again, triggering subjects. I get it, because people say, but what about the starving children? But what about the people that are losing their homes, that their house are being foreclosed on, or something bad happens to them? I don't want to begin here at the end, which is then the manifested experience, but I want to begin at the vibrational level, and then everybody else can figure this out on their own. If we go into a deeper state of awareness while we daydream or while we think about our life, so while we reflect on a problem, the problem tends to be the end result, right? The problem is something doesn't work out, something bugs us, somebody bugs us, we're in pain, we have a sickness, money problems, whatever the problem seems to be, it's not the problem. That is the symptom. That is the manifested expression of it. So now we go all the way down. If we're being honest with ourselves, we can explore the underlying vibration. And we don't have to understand the numbers of frequencies. We don't have to understand even the scale of consciousness. All we have to do is tune in and feel. Does it feel harmonious? Does it feel balanced? Does it feel good? Does it feel loving? Or is there tension? Is there anxiety? Is there fear? Is there worry? Is there doubt? Because when we feel those things, we already know that is what we're truly sending out. It doesn't matter what you think up here. What you think up here is like, it is a little percentage, but what's down here, what your feelings are, what your true beliefs are, is really what shapes this. And how we view ourselves, friends. What we truly believe about ourselves is everything. So in other words, let me just make sure we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. You guys can still see me and hear me, right? Yes? Just give me a thumbs up real quick so I know. I had some alarms coming up here. Just want to make sure we're all good. Just waiting for you all here, and then we'll go on. Yep. Okay, good. Okay. So in other words, there is nothing, not a single thing that we experience in our lives that doesn't come back to the inner image that we hold. And if we know that life doesn't begin with this particular body and it doesn't end with this particular body, and life was before, then we also can understand how these inner images, we can bring them with us as we incarnate or reincarnate, we bring some of that stuff with us. So that's why we have to work it out. That's why we have to clean it up. But if you've gone through life for a few decades, maybe a few decades more, you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, doesn't matter. If you go and look at your life, it's a reflection of what you believe about yourself, who you believe yourself to be, and not necessarily what you believe about the world, but really what you believe about who you are, what you're capable of, what is possible for you, what you deserve, what is right, what is wrong. All those things determine it. And basically, we are constantly projecting in our little field, into our little field, we're constantly projecting that which we truly believe about ourselves. And it is constantly reflecting that thing back to us. So every single time that we complain about circumstances, especially in our little world, I'm going to stick to this subject here, our own little reality bubble, your life, where you live, who you interact with the most, what you do the most. Every time that you complain about the people, the circumstances, the not enough, the too much, the too loud, too whatever, remember, you put yourself there. That is it was the hardest realization in my life, was that whenever I am trying to sort of blame it on the next guy here, I remember that the next guy here is part of what I pulled in. It's part of what I co-created for myself. It's the experience that I put myself into. Now I can simply walk away, and that's sort of the knee-jerk kind of deal that people want to do. I'm gonna just, well, fuck you, I'm gonna just walk away. Or I can change the image that I hold of myself. I can change a particular belief about myself, which is the only work worth doing. If you are starting in life by trying to change the people around you, try to change the political parties, try to change the system, that is never working until we change ourselves into that which we then want to show, bring, do, put out there. Okay. So the inner image shapes the outer world always, 100% of the time, without fail, without exception. Creation moves in rhythmic laws. This is something that's very seldom talked about, but there is a rhythm to everything. Now, rhythm does not necessarily mean a particular time span. Rhythm just means there's first imagination. Something has to become, a vision, an image has to become stronger than the ones before. And I'm going to talk about why 85 million people should know this by 2030. I haven't forgotten about this, but first we got to do this here. So an image that you truly want to experience in your individual reality bubble has to first become stronger, deeper, higher, more expanded than any other image you used to hold of yourself. That's the first thing. It has to be more powerful. Those are usually the kinds of ideas that just swoop in, and they feel very powerful, and they take over. These ideas take over. It can be an idea for art. It can be an idea for business. It can be an idea for a solution for gardening, for the world. It doesn't matter. But when it gets a hold of you and it's really strong, that's the imagination phase. Then it's the gestation phase. That's when you keep holding on to that idea and keep revisiting it and intensifying it, scripting it. And here's the key issue: remembering it, friends. This is so important. We have been taught a false operational mode of reality, which is we are looking forward. There is truly no forward. There is just here. So a memory isn't always just something that we've experienced in the past. A memory can be a deep inner knowing just as well. It's just the same thing. A deep inner knowing is something that we've accepted as fact. See, memories we accept as facts because we say, well, this happened to me. It is a fact. Okay, so good. But when we imagine something new that we haven't experienced yet, we have a hard time classifying it as facts because we haven't experienced it yet. So now that's where we practice this thing. That's where we envision it. That's where we script it. And that's where we remember the feeling of it over and over and over again until it becomes the same thing as a memory, a hardened fact. That is the persistence part, okay? When it is a memory hardwired into your system, even though you haven't experienced in physical reality, it's already a memory. That's when it becomes solid. It's a done deal. There's no doubt that the experience will follow. That's then what is the projection into physical reality. But here's the thing. The experience almost never unfolds the way that you thought it's going to unfold. Almost never is the path what you imagined it to be. But the experience, the feeling, and the quote unquote end result are usually much, much better even. Okay. So very important to remember. That's the gestation period. That's you plant the seed. Now you water the seed. You don't freaking dig it up every day, do you? Wondering if it's already germinated. No. You water it, you love on it, you remember that it's there even when there's nothing to see. You remember it's there. It's a memory, a future fact, a present memory, and then you harvest. Feeling, my friends, is the most underrated thing, and it's oftentimes you know, it's ridiculed because people say, well, the facts don't care about your feelings. But this is only a very small platitude about emotional trigger reactions. That's not really true. The facts matter greatly about your feelings because the facts tend to change when your feelings are in the right place. So it's not only that you start to feel different about something, right? Because you change your perspective, you change your image of yourself. But let's just say the facts are your current state is that um, okay, I'll take an example. One of our wonderful viewers, it wasn't too long ago, a couple months ago, maybe a few more, uh, wrote in the live chat, and I'll share this with you. I won't be able to pay my rent next month. And I read this and I said, hold on a moment. You do not know this. There is only one fact here. Right this very moment, you do not know how are you going to pay rent next month. That's true. Okay. But it's not a fact that you won't be able to pay rent next month unless you make it so. And so I immediately got a vision for that person uh, in the form of an envelope. And I saw money in an envelope. And all I put out there is just imagine yourself receiving an envelope with money. More than enough. That's all. And I saw it. I could see it. It was a done deal. Now, that person in a live chat apparently saw it too, or believed in it, saw it. And that's exactly what happened. An envelope with money found her with plenty of time left. And I think for 2 months' rent. So there is what happens when you change the energy, when you change the feeling, my friends. The feeling. You can't create or you can't bring into life, bring forth a vision about something beautiful while feeling angry all the time. And this is why I say when people go down these rabbit holes and they try to explore how the financial system works, what the cabal does, who are the beings pulling the strings, the WEF and the non-physical beings in the background in the simulation of the matrix. Well, if you go down these rabbit holes while you are suffering, struggling, or having big problems, that's just only going to make it worse. You're not going to gain anything from it. You're not going to be able to have any positive outcome from it. But if you change first how you feel about yourself, and this is practice, we are living in a world that, so right now specifically in the last century, but in the last 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, then the advent of social media, it's teaching people to have this egotistical self-centeredness. That has nothing to do with love. It's all looks and shapes and forms and filters and all that crap. But we were truly taught, programmed to loathe ourselves, to constantly criticize ourselves. We were taught that criticizing ourselves actually keeps us improving ourselves. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that I used to have a big inner critic. I still have one, but it's much smaller now. And I'm working with that inner critic, knowing that my childhood, all I was hearing is how people were either putting themselves down, constantly questioning themselves, constantly criticizing themselves or others. And so I was taught to do that with myself as well. So how do I feel about myself then? Well, not so good, right? So not so good is then reflected. So the first order of business is truly to change something. When you really want to change something, is to start with love. This is the famous moment where you stand in front of the mirror for the first time in your life, maybe, and you say, I love yourself. I love you, I love you. I love me. I love you. You look into your eyes in the mirror and you say, I love you. Most people cringe when they do that. Um, then, when you stand naked in front of the mirror and you look up and down, you go, I love this body. Most people cringe when they do that. But that is how you start infusing different feelings into your experience. You hear it, you see it, you feel it. After a while, if you persist in it, there will be more gentleness, softness, love around you. So then, believe it or not, that's what will show up more in your reality. And you could say, well, it's just a mind trick because I'm deprogramming my mind from harshness and criticism into more gentleness, more love. So that's what I'm seeing more in my world because I'm now paying attention to it. Well, it's the yellow car phenomenon, right? If you go out and if all that you want to see today is yellow cars, even though the taxi business is almost over and there's none of them out there anymore, well, all you're going to see pretty much all day is yellow cars all around. Are you saying you created more yellow cars? No. You are now, you have changed your filters. So in other words, what if if it was envelopes with money, or what if it was streams of abundance that can come in forms of gifts, that can come in forms of uh, um, uh, bonuses, it can come in forms of you find something, it can be offers, it can be whatever. But now you've changed your filtration system, so your feeling now is receiving. Practice that and watch what happens. And it by no means means that inaction is part of this game here. Not at all. Not at all. Actually, the opposite is true. Balance sustains all things. Harmony between thoughts, feelings, and action is a foundation of enduring creation. So we move all day, every day. That is our action. We do things all day, every day. So if I'm doing similar things as the next person a mile over, how come that our outcomes are so different? Well, let me tell you something about the image that we hold of ourselves and how that matters. About 15 miles from here, there is a Schwarzentruber Amish settlement. Like those are the real old order Amish people. Um, they have no they don't use electricity, or just in such limited ways, if at all. They don't use electricity. Once you pull into on their property, um it's like 18 to 70 basically, right? In terms of technology, what's there, you look a little deeper, they use some tools but very, very little of, and they're of course isolated from our world as much as they can be. They do some business with the outside world, but other than that, there's very little socializing, and they are living according to their self-image. So they have an image of what Amish is. That particular group of Amish, like everyone else, they have an image of what that means. That image is being transported to everyone in the community, and then everybody in the community as a microcosm holds that image and lives it. So 15 miles from here, people live like it's 1870. Okay. So their experience of reality is fundamentally different than mine. So how objective is reality really? What do we share? We share atmosphere, we share oxygen, we share weather, we share a few other things that are sort of baked into this construct. But other than that, their experience of reality is completely different. So, what determines that? Not geography, because we're very close to each other. It's the image that they hold. And so their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions keep reflecting it back to them. And so they live this life until the end of this particular experience, and then they go on or come back. And so objective reality, it's very few things that we actually share. There's much more individual. There's much more of our own creation that we think. And this is what the balance of all things shows us. So if your thoughts, if your feelings, your beliefs, and your actions begin to be more aligned into where you actually, what life you actually want to live, now here's where the difference comes. The thoughts and the feelings that we hold while we take the action determine a vastly different outcome. The thoughts and the feelings that my Amish brothers over there hold while they do certain things create a completely different outcome for them than the thoughts and the feelings that I hold. And we might be doing the same thing. We might be plowing the field, or we might be planting seeds, or we might be putting something together. But who we are while we're doing it, who we are, what we believe, we think, what we feel determines the outcome and our experience. Period, folks. This has been true since the beginning of time, and it will be true in perpetuity. This is what this all boils down to. We are co-creators, and every single being that is spirit. So I don't attribute these qualities to a clone, okay, or to a artificially reproduced being, but to a spirited being. Every single being that is spirit has these co-creative abilities. But creation sounds so huge, and I get that it's a big thing. Like you would say, well, I'm too small to be a creator. Okay, maybe let's start a little lower. What if we don't see ourselves as much as creators, but as calibrators, right? So if all potentials are part of all, have already been created, or creation is finished, if you will, then it's us who insert ourselves in certain realities. What are we living? That is our co-creative part. What are we living? Is it good? Is it not good? That's the first question. Is it good? Does this feel good to you? Like when you wake up in the morning, the life that you live, is it good? If it's fundamentally good, that's wonderful. Congratulations. That's more and more and more of that is going to show up. But if it's not, if what you're experiencing is not good, if there's pain, if there's suffering, if there's lack, if there's anything like that, remember that it's not where you are necessarily or the circumstances, but that you as a co-creator have brought that to the table. You've brought the lack energy to the table. You've brought that pain energy to the table, and you probably didn't do it consciousness. Might be unhealed trauma, might be something from the past. Usually is. It's not a guilting and shaming. It's a realization. The most beautiful realization that we could ever have is that we vibrate, that we are frequency. And once we have that realization, nothing can ever be impossible for anyone again. Then nobody can say that because they live in a certain place of the world, or because their parents were certain people, or whatever, that anything is impossible for them, because vibration is an inside job and you can change it. As a matter of fact, you're the only one who can change it. And once we realize this, what do we become again? The rightful embodiers of this co-creator place. It's much simpler than we actually think. So then the question that comes at the end of all of this is, do we go out? Do we even pay attention? Do we even worry or think about what is happening in the world, or do we not? And like I said before, not before the transformation has happened. So the transformation has to first happen within. And that means that certain parts of ourselves need to go and be transmuted. Like I said in our last show, I said that when people go out and they protest for peace, what do we call that often? A demonstration. A demonstration. When we demonstrate something, we're showing something. So a peace demonstration where people violently shout and throw stuff and are angry and are protesting war by being in a warlike energy, how can that be a demonstration of peace? So we have to first transmute, transcend, become that which we carry out into the world. And every single time that the world's programs get the best of us for a moment and they wear us down, we have to recalibrate, step away, go into prayer, go into silence, go into nature, go into meditation, until you recalibrate and realize that what you are determines everything around you. And why 85 million people need to learn this is because 85 million is roughly, if the estimates are correct, which we don't know, is roughly 1% of the world's population. So if we could get 85% of the people to comprehend these principles that I just talked about, to embody them, specifically children, they know this, but then they forget. If we could get that and make that happen, um, imagine the ripple effects that this would have. So we can wait, we can worship political figures or savior figures or someone out there who is going to fix it, or we can become that now. Literally become that now. 85 million people who need to embody these principles. That's 1%. I think it's more than enough. 1% critical mass. And there's, of course, already millions of people who are embodying this. But see, there's a difference between knowing something, mentally comprehending it, and living it. A lot more people mentally comprehend this, but they're not living it. They just comprehend it. They don't practice it. They just think they think they do because they know it. Most people know way more than they embody. Embodiment is lived wisdom. That's lived knowledge. That's applied knowledge. It's only that knowledge that actually does anything for anyone. When we take something and we put it into action. So anyone today who would commit to 10 minutes, maybe 15, but let's say 10 minutes every morning, 10 minutes of breath work and practicing love and peace. And that's so easy because once you do breath work for 5 minutes, you're going to be in a peaceful state. And then all you breathe in is peace and love. I am peace. I'm love. 5 minutes. So 10 minutes every morning. You do this for 2 or 3 months. Your consciousness will have risen. Your peace levels will have gone up. You will experience more love in your life. You will start to see it in your physical reality. You will have just changed the world by doing something for 10 minutes every morning. 10 minutes every morning. If you commit to it, it's going to start shifting things. You're going to start sending ripple waves into the field that's going to change things around us. And while I keep hearing the false projections, even by reputable people that have done this for a while, that we're going to see nuclear war in Europe next year, I simply refuse to go there. I'm telling you this. There's people out there who have a very good track record of predicting things, if you will. But I don't think these people are truly comprehending what moment we're in. They're still looking at an older way to project something. They're looking at the old way of gathering data and then making a prediction. consciousness is it is exponential. It doesn't work in a linear way. You can't go back and gather the data of the last 50 years and then predict consciousness. We're at an exponential curve. We were at one in 2019, and we worked ourselves up again here in 2025. We're at an exponential curve, so it can't be predicted. So I hear the words nuclear war. I don't feel it. I don't feel that truth. I hear certain Armageddon scenarios that are very like, but I don't feel the truth. What I will tell you is there is still a massive truth to the technocratic agenda of AI everywhere. That is still a massive potential. And I agree with that because I can still feel that potential. But here we are, potentially 85 million people by 2030 embodying these concepts that I talked about. Now, will you be one of them? Will you teach others? Will you show this to your children, grandchildren? Will you spread the word and be the beer and be the doer of these things? Well, that's up to you, friends. But as you know, we're not going to stop. We have a lot more work to do, and we're going to do it all together. So thank you for that. It's wonderful for you to be here. Also, I want to invite you. We have started a new journey. As you can see, there's a little bit of a different setup. We're not where we used to be. We've moved, and a new farm journey begins here on an Nolan farm. We are on our land here, and we have started with the goats that were already here, but yesterday we brought in the chickens, and we're going to sort of do a series that's called Farm Tales. So we're going to invite people in to just, get a glimpse into how the farm works and what we're doing here and what we're trying to accomplish. And, the gardens that are coming and the orchard that's coming at some point. And I'm sure a greenhouse that's coming at some point. And we're doing this in our Inspired community on Locals. So that's at inspired.locals.com. For all our supporters there, we're doing the Farm Tales series. And like I said, we've already shown a little bit of what we've been doing, building the chicken coop, bringing the chickens in, stuff like that. If you're interested in tagging along, of course, we're also going to do our Coffee and Truth and Honey Talk shows on Locals. But this is going to be quite a focal point in the near future, Farm Tales. So if that's something you're interested in, inspired.locals.com. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here with us. We love you. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon. Are you looking for like-minded and like-hearted people to connect with? Then the Inspired community on Locals is the right place for you. You can post, comment, share, and connect with others, and our shows there are completely uncensored and unfiltered. It's stuff we can't talk about here. It's such a great community, and there are zero trolls. We keep the subscription fees super low, so 19 cents per day. Keep the trolls away. Join us today at inspired.locals.com. We can't wait to see you there.